Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Janice Cobbin with the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and I am a Reiki Master, Celtic Shamanic High Priestess. I do crystal stuff and Nukti, and I'm a channel, and I do stuff. And I'm joined today by Jennifer Jurkofsky. Jen, what kind of stuff do you do?
Yeah, I am a registered psychotherapist, a certified Canadian counselor, an intuitive life coach. I do some energy stuff and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
It's fun stuff.
we do fun stuff. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited to have you guys here today. We're just going to say a quick hello to Kaylee, who's in the audience. Hello, Kaylee. Thank you for joining us. And so we've had some stuff happen over the last, there's that word again, over the last few days. Hey, Jackie, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. All the way from, I believe it's England. Thank you for joining us.
Oh.
And so we have had some stuff in the space weather this week. Not as bad as last week at all, though. So it's quite a bit quieter this week, which is kind of nice for a change. So I do have the, let's add this and we'll take a quick peek here. So we do have some sunspots here that are coming up. No major flares though since last week, right? We had the X3 of February 9th. Mm-hmm. We had an F9 on the 11th. And we had a corona mass ejection on the 10th. So this week, those are the most recent big things. So really, it's not too bad at all this week in terms of that. And if you see here, even this stuff, we've had some sea level, which is pretty minor overall. And if you look here, the last one was the 17th, where we had an M3 in terms of solar flares. So pretty good where that's concerned. The Schumann, we have an ad, of course. The Schumann's been pretty quiet. You see, we don't have a lot of white this week, which last week we were full of white. So it's great. This week is quieter energetically. What's happening with our beautiful transits? I think there's more going on there, guys, from what I can tell.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, here we go. This is our card for today. This is the Gate 55. Now, we actually are going into this today. So I don't know if you felt a shift at all. It would have been, in the middle of the night for us. Yeah. So depending on how that happened, because there's different times that it did. But if anybody woke up in the, what are we, Eastern time zone, around like 2-ish, 3 in the morning, like that kind of middle of the night time, you may have a shift happening there. And we'll be in this energy until I think it's the 24th of February. And so this is it's the gate of abundance, or the spirit, right? Quality of spirit in the emotional now. So we talk so much about that, right?
Yes.
And emotions and being present with that. And so it's really interesting. In the Gene Key side of things, it's about moving from victimization to freedom. And in this one, the gift and the siddhi are both freedom, right? And so really understanding kind of what that means. We're looking at moving from, again, victimization. So, being a victim of our own drama, right? Our own complaining, our blaming, our inability to kind of take responsibility. Richard associates this with Indra's net, this kind of, thing that shoots holes into, our assumptions, and, recognizing, like, are we actually taking responsibility for what's going on in our lives, right? Or are we, constantly trying to push or strive for things and not allowing them to unfold in their proper timing? Right? So the archetypes for this, depending on who you follow, talk about, the abundant spirit or the game changer. And it really, like, there's so much potential in this energy, to surround ourselves with creativity, with abundance, being able to, bring forth kind of this energy in a loving way, but we get so caught up in this fear of emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
We end up trying to push for things that it's not, the right timing for, or, so depending on how this shows up for you in your chart, pay attention to what you have around you. Pay attention to what you're trying to bring in. And are you trying to force it? Are you allowing things to unfold and just really kind of surrendering to the ability for creativity and abundance to be in your experience, right? Or are you in this place of, trying to just make it happen? And, as we all do, right? When we're trying to force something, make it happen, it's not in flow, it's not in alignment. What happens, right? We hit
It's
wall
just harder
after wall after wall.
Yep.
And this is how we can fall really easily into this place of victimhood, right? Because it's like, nothing ever works for me. Things just aren't really. Well, what are we doing, right? That is constantly hitting these walls. Are we able to take that step back and actually tap into what is there for us, right? And allow that to unfold in its own kind of natural way, as opposed to us trying to make it be what we want it to be. So it's a beautiful energy, but it's a hard energy because, that's
because
to do while we're here.
We're not accountable for anybody else's actions or reactions, but we are accountable for our own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a big hello to Estella right there. And we have Patricia. Hey, Patricia. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we talk about the shifts that are happening and the downloads and things like that. And this energy really is, like Richard talks about, how it triggers genetic shifts, like across the planet, right? And it is about triggering that for individual awakening.
Yeah.
Right. But again, it's noticing these patterns that are happening within us, and how do we, one, do we notice them?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, that's part of that whole awareness piece, right?
Yeah.
Being awake and aware.
Yeah. And then if we do notice them, what are we doing with it? Right? Are we feeding into the whole...
What is that? Right? You pull it out and go,
Yeah.
What is it? What is it that we're looking at here?
Yeah. And can we look at it in, a place of non-judgment? Can we look at it in a place of acceptance? Hard to do with shadow stuff, right?
It is.
But can we look at it and go, that's what keeps triggering me. Yeah. Okay. And instead of this whole, and I like this shift, it's one simple word, but instead of why is this happening to me, why is this happening for me, right? What just got triggered in me? What is it that I have an opportunity now to grow from, to transmute, to change, to work with, right? Like all of those things. And we have, opportunity now if we're able to make that shift and understanding.
Yeah. And that's a tough one for a lot of people, right? I mean, this is very much the drama triangle conversation that we have frequently, that people are caught in that drama triangle where they're playing victim, villain, or hero at any given time.
Right.
Sometimes all three, right? And with this particular one, that's the accountability. It's all about that. And how do we pull ourselves out of that?
Yeah. And how do we allow ourselves to one, observe the triangle from outside of it? Yeah. And how do we allow ourselves to be whatever role we need to be at any given time without trying to control it?
Well, yeah.
Both of which are really, really hard to do.
Indeed. And, I think that the energies shifting into this week have been quite fascinating in terms of that, coming from last week into this week. And I don't know about you guys, but yesterday was a little chaotic in terms of energy. We had some stuff going on, but, in terms of energy itself, it was very chaotic.
I laugh, right? Because the energy, so the codon ring, and I don't normally talk about those for this, but it's apropos. It's the ring of the whirlwind, right?
Yes.
So understand that that's okay, right? It's about how do we allow ourselves to be in that, and how do we allow ourselves to work through that.
Yeah. And stay grounded, because that's really a big thing when you're in that, right? It's how do you stay grounded? How do you be like, okay, there's this whirlwind going on around me. I'm just going to stand here for a minute and ground. And what do I do? Asking for that assistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Carla. Thank you for
Hello,
joining us. Nice
hello.
to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a fascinating journey, really, with all of that stuff. So, yeah. So I ended up in an ER this weekend with a family member, and it was crazy busy in the ER. Yes, everything is okay. But I noticed the energy in the ER, and I thought it was a full moon. It was that bad. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but it's like it's a full moon in here. There were like 4 or 5 traumas in the time that we were in there, and we were there for 10 hours or something. And I thought, okay, this is chaotic energy. This is like, what is going on here? So I think it was this shift that was happening like last night, right? But we were sort of heading into it. It's like a release kind of energy, and then you're like coming into this new abundance thing. So it's almost been like energetically, it's felt like we're doing sort of like a purgy thing.
Yeah.
And then coming into today, this is where we start to build on that abundance, taking accountability, restock it, like going through a stock list in our head. What do I want to do? What do I want to bring in? And how do I create that?
Yeah. Well, and in order to do that, as we know, whether we appreciate it or not, enjoy it or not, in order to create and bring in, we have to release.
Yes.
Right. And so a big piece of all of this energy is really, like it's going to bring up dormant memories and, codes within the body. Like we talk about trauma in the body, right? Like it's going to activate or awaken these things within us that we have to deal with and we have to work on in order to be able to release so that we can bring in something else.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And
welcome to being human, guys.
Yeah. And the wonderful, joyful, messy process.
Emotional, purgy kind of thing. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. This is what I felt like it was like this week. A purging thing. Been crying off and on for the last 2 days. Yeah. I've had a few clients say that they've been having purge stuff as well. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not surprised. Purge is a good thing. It's how we shift. So I think that's probably the case for you, Kaylee, where you're shifting into a higher frequency. I think, we hit sort of these markers on our journey, and we have to sort of push past them. And so doing that purging thing helps us to get past the marker into the next sort of space that we're supposed to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's going to be a bit of a wild ride, right? So I know I've mentioned before a little bit about like programming partners and things like that, but the programming partner for this one, the shadow aspect of that is dishonesty, right? It's the 59th shadow. And so when you really think about, okay, here's the shadow of victimization and the shadow of dishonesty, and how does that actually play out in our experience? And remember, none of this has to do with the other. It always has to do with us. Right?
Yeah.
And so the way that these two work together when we get really caught up in them is we are our own worst enemy. Right?
Yeah.
We're bringing in, this narrative that continually perpetuates the same kind of victimhood, and that, dishonesty around, how that comes out, is that victim, right? The victimization. It's like, you're doing this to me and this is happening and the universe hates me and right. And however,
clear, cancel, delete. I'm just saying.
Right. However it plays out there. But really understanding that, we, the old, like, adage, you reap what you sow, right? Richard talks about that in here because it's in that context of, the narratives that we hold on to and the beliefs that we hold about our reality, they do show up for us in our experience. So it's a really important time for doing that introspection, for checking in, and for seeing what patterns we have, and how can we, connect with that quality of spirit that really comes from this, and it's interesting because remember I said in the beginning, it's with the emotional now, right? Can I really let myself feel my feels?
Feel the feels.
Feel the feels. Observe the feels, right? And move on from it. And it's interesting. I had written a thing on one of the chats for human design a while back, and it's coming to mind now too. And it was this idea of, how we handle the emotional waves, right? And we can be the surfer out there riding the waves and doing, everything we can to learn how to ride better and learn how to navigate it and all of that. And that's not a bad thing, but eventually we want to become the beach bum, right?
Isn't that everybody's dream, to be a beach bum, especially in the middle of winter?
Who sits on the shore and watches the waves, can appreciate their power, can appreciate the way that they toss about when they're really, when there's that stormy weather, can appreciate the calm when it's there, right? But can allow all of those things to come and go and flow and all, but and feel them and be, caught up in the sense of how we're caught up when we watch a movie, or when, we're caught up in it enough to appreciate its value, but not so much that it dictates everything in our experience.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
And that's really this ability, this energy, right, of moving from this one place to the other. Sorry, guys, I thought I had that muted.
Confirmed. It's confirmed.
There you go. Yeah. So just, notice that and notice, when you're feeling these feels, right? Are you still being tossed around in those waves, and how can you become that observer? Right? Doesn't mean you don't feel them, but it means that you're gonna work with them way different than if you're right out there in the midst of it.
Yep. I think there's been a lot of surfing in the last bit. A lot of surfing. People are, and with some of the energies, it's been like, I'm surfing the waves, so I'm good. I'm actually above the water. This is a good thing.
That's a good thing.
First, and then beach bums after, right? So we got to get there somehow.
Yeah. But the more we're able to stay on the beach,
the better.
The better.
So I just have to say, I've had an archangel with me most of the day today, and he's back again. So I'm not sure what this is about. So we'll see if anything comes through from him as we sit and talk about some stuff, because it's it's been Archangel Azrael all day today. So I'm wondering what that's about.
Got in store.
It'll be interesting to see. So I do, part of my soul contract is crossing people over. And so I do that periodically. I can tell when it's time, because I either start to feel heavy, or I have a big black raven as a power animal that comes and tells me. And so I've done it fairly recently, but this is very present today. So it'll be interesting. I'll have to have a little chat with him later. I don't know why I'm sharing that. I guess I just was meant to. Well, anybody else notice that kind of thing happening more lately? Like that you're feeling your guides and feeling the archangel presence and all of that stuff? Is that happening for you more often?
Yeah.
Are you feeling it more, Jen?
Oh, golly. It's been, there's been a lot around, and a lot of guidance and all. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But what was coming to me as you were talking is again that idea of release that we have to go through right now with this transit that we're coming into, and the death that comes along with that.
Right.
Right.
And of course, we grieve change of any kind, or anything that is no longer with us for whatever reason, whether it's a person or an animal, or even things. Sometimes we grieve, losing a thing. So, I guess there's a lot of that happening right now. So we're working through some of that as a release.
Yeah.
But it is to make room for beautiful things.
I'm
going to have to tell him to stop yelling in my ear.
Well, what's he want to say?
I don't know. He's very high vibration, and it's like this really high pitched squealing in my ear, my right ear. So,
all right. Well, if he's willing to, break down a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to bring his vibration down slightly for me to pay attention. So do we want to pick a card for a topic?
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Right. Let's see what we got. Nope, not that many. Let's see.
I'm getting battling the self for some reason is coming up. I don't know what that's about.
Interesting. I got where am I called to use my voice right now?
Oh, so maybe that's about battling yourself. So you need self-talk. That's what we're talking about.
Well, and also, for me, what comes up with that, like, where am I called to use my voice, right, is that ability to speak our truth, to connect with and speak it.
Boundaries.
So, right, where am I called to use my voice right now? So you have a soul script that was written to be spoken. Your story matters, and it's time for you to share it with the world. Today's soul action: share your story with at least one person today. Be brave and speak your truth. Your voice will be the catalyst for healing others. Right. And how beautiful this idea of speaking our truth when we're in this energy that we've just moved into, that's really about going in and actually noticing and honoring our truth. Right? And owning it for ourselves, and not projecting it out and not putting it on anybody else, right? Like, how incredible is that as far as an ability to, to use our voice, right? And to really connect with what's coming up for us, and how, how we want to be here. So why don't you guys share, right? You can tell us a little bit about, what's coming up for you when we think about using your voice right now, right? Is there empowerment in that? Is there fear in it, right? What comes up that you want to speak that you've had trouble kind of doing? What is this, soul script that's been written? Where are we at with that?
So I just have to say that they're very active today, and I'm feeling slightly pulled. So if I'm a little bit distant, I'm being pulled somewhere right at the moment. So I just thought I would let you guys know that. So if I'm more quiet, that's kind of why. I seem to be busy doing something in a different dimension.
Coming into the show, it was a bit, we were a bit not here, which is part of why we were late.
That's why we were late, because we were like, that happens to us. We're all multidimensional beings, right? And so we're tapping into the different dimensional frequencies, and that we're doing that even if we're not consciously there. Right? And Jen and I do a fair bit of work in those other dimensions on a regular basis. So we tend to, as soon as she and I connect, it's like, oh, we got to go do this. And she and I are trying to do the show, and they've got us doing stuff over here. So
they told us to do the show, so they have to keep us present enough to be able to manage.
Exactly. I think somebody missed that memo. We need to remind them. So, yeah. So it's an interesting day. So we actually have a stat holiday here in Ontario today, and it's Family Day. All right, we have a comment here. So it's kind of quieter today in terms of overall.
Mm-hmm.
So Kaylee says, I struggled to talk nicely to myself like I had a good friend tell me to eat because I knew I couldn't convince myself to. Work in progress. We're all a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We're all a work in progress. Yeah, talking nicely to ourselves is one of those things that's probably one of the more difficult things to do because we're so used to not doing it, right? We're so used to doing self-correction, if we didn't, but trying to be nicer and gentler, good.
Mm-hmm.
But in many ways, that particular, how do I want to put that? So in many ways, the self-talk is a good sign, because if you didn't do self-reflection, you wouldn't be doing the self-talk in the way you are. And so self-reflection is a huge part of the journey, right? We have to be able to reflect on self-talk, on what's going on, and that's how it starts. The difference is that there's the healthy self-talk and the not so healthy, and we tend to get sidetracked as humans and go off to that not so healthy.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because of programming and how we grew up and all of that stuff, right? Being told we're not good enough, or you're too emotional, or you're too this or too that, or you're not good enough for this. And, there's just so much of that,
Well, and it's true,
So
right? That critical self-talk is not natural,
it's not,
right?
it's definitely programmed, right?
It's programmed, it's conditioned, it's all of the things that we get from trying to figure out how to fit in to this life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we come in,
Who wants to fit in?
well, we come in as these, amazing beings that are all expansive, connected to everything, and understand oneness fully, to whoop, individual sense of self that needs to prove itself and needs to appease everybody else and doesn't really understand any of what we knew before we showed up here, right?
Yeah.
And it happens every single time. So even if we have snippets of what that is, it takes time, and we have to work through that conditioning.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So Tanis and I talk about, we remember previous lives together, and remember being in these other places. And it doesn't, even though it's a really, beautiful thing, it doesn't change the fact that we still have to unlearn a whole lot of stuff just because we showed up here again.
And we chose this, Jen.
Right?
Yeah. We do have a lot of interesting lives together, though.
Mm-hmm.
But each and every one has been very unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Kaylee says here, I do remind myself, don't talk to my friend like that. I seem to think that phrase sounds familiar. Like I've used that a few times. It catches me off guard enough to stop. Good.
Mm-hmm.
And Carla says, for me, it's to be true to myself and put myself out and share my truth, knowing that it's safe.
Yeah.
Yes. And having a community to do that with and feel safe in is so important right now. I think that there's so much shadow stuff happening. And this is happening for us. Like we've just been talking about doing our own shadow work, and we're all going to be doing it, right? But when we have the whole collective doing shadow work at the same time, it creates this chaotic, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's where the surfing and the beach part comes in. How do we get off the surfboard and on the beach, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too when we think about safety, right? Because so often we associate safety with something outside of ourselves, right? Am I safe in this environment? Am I safe with this person? Am I safe doing this thing? And I think that, all of those things are very important. But the biggest thing that we have to really come home to is, do I feel safe within myself? Right? Do I trust myself enough to know when to walk away? do I trust myself enough to set a boundary and honor it? Sorry, that in order.
She has bubbles because she's doing this, and she has a Mac.
Well, because I did this, and so my thumb's up, and it was like, oh, look, she's doing a thumb up. Anyway,
She has a magic screen.
Yeah. And so, having community can allow us, the ability to practice that and to learn to trust ourselves more, and to, absolutely. And community is a beautiful place for that. But being able to then carry that newfound trust that we can have within ourselves, knowing that it's okay to trust our intuition. It's okay to follow our gut. It's okay to speak our truth, right? And being able to then bring that into other aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
Right? So
and I think that's, you practice, like you said, right? You practice with people that you trust in a trusted community to, and I think that's important. I know when I started my journey, it was always very like, I don't know how to talk about this. Should I? How do I do this? How do I talk? Because we're talking, 8-10 years ago now that I started talking about Reiki. And I remember going to a networking meeting, right? I was with the, what is it? Business Networking International, BNI. And I was in one of them, and I got up to the front, and we had to, every 3 months or so, each person would have a time to talk in front of the group, right? To really tell people what they do and stuff like that. Anyway, so I get up there and I'm talking about Reiki. And there's all sorts of people in the room, right? Of all different professions. And I get up there and I start talking about the energy and, do the whole science thing. And then at the end of it all, we have a door prize. We give a door prize. So I gave a free session. So one of the guys got up, he stood up and he said, I really don't understand what you do. It might be black magic, but thanks for the presentation. So first of all, it's not black magic, but which I'll say in a moment. Second of all, he won the door prize.
Of course.
So he comes to see me and we go through this whole well, it took a few weeks of convincing. I'm like, what do you have to be scared of, right?
But again, like, as much as people go, I don't know, there is a part that goes, well,
what if it is, right? Yeah. So he came, we had the chat about the black magic. So just for the audience, I do white magic. That is it. So white magic, because you'll see that I'm a Celtic shamanic high priestess, right? And so I do some of that stuff, the craft. But I do all white magic. And the big difference is white magic, you're not taking away anybody's free will. You're just trying to create a vibrational frequency for yourself to attract like attracts like. So, a love spell, for instance, I'm just trying to bring love into my life. With dark magic, you're taking away somebody else's free will. So a love spell with dark magic would be, I want that person to fall in love with me, because you're taking away that person's free will. So that was the whole conversation we had. like, I'm not doing that. I don't take away people's free will. I value my own, so I value others, and anyway, so the whole thing, he had the session, we had a long session, it was good. And he goes back the next day and he goes, well, still don't understand what she does fully, but it should be illegal to feel that good.
I love that.
And I was like, alrighty. That's probably one of the best testimonials yet. So, and that just brings forward, like, how do we talk about it? That didn't feel like a really safe community. That's why I'm saying that in terms of that type of conversation, it became safe because we create that for ourselves, right? I put myself out there. I had to take that leap of faith and start talking about it in the group. And as I started talking about it, really the safety is about people understanding it, which is very evident in that story, right?
But even more so, it's about you knowing that you can navigate it, even if somebody doesn't agree. Again, It always comes back to home. As much as we want, to look to the outside, it always comes back to home.
Yes. The interesting thing with that is that I had to be comfortable with myself first and what I do. because you can't put yourself out there in a confident way if you're not sure what you do.
Yeah.
So that whole beginning of my journey was all about, okay, who am I? What am I doing? What is this energy business? What does that mean for me? What does it mean for my clients? What do I actually accomplish when I have a session, right? And all of that had to come into the equation before I could feel confident in myself, and doing my self-talk had to be positive about it before I could put it out there in a confident way. So it's always an inside job.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the more I stepped into that confidence about how to describe energy and how do we do Reiki and am I doing it right? Which of course we are. But Reiki has its own mind. And so it's it's a conscious energy. It actually goes where it's needed. So you can't really.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot that you
can't do anything wrong with it, really. It's very safe. But yeah.
Stay out of the way. That's the best thing.
Yep. Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If we push too much, we're not doing it. We're just giving them our energy. And I would say people don't want my energy. They want source energy. And you can tell when you're doing Reiki and you're pushing, because at the end of the Reiki, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Whereas when I do Reiki, I end up feeling better at the end of the session because I've learned how to channel it. And then you've got all this light coming through.
It's flowed through you and cleared out everything too. It's like, hey.
Exactly. I love my job.
It gets rid of what it doesn't need and it continues on with what it does.
I love my job. It's great.
Yeah. But again, this is also that piece of really coming home to your soul script, what you're here for, right? Yeah. And allowing that abundance to come through in what you're able to offer to the world. Right? It's what you're here for.
Yeah.
Right.
The more you step into that soul contract, the soul contracts the soul. What did you just call it?
The soul script?
Your soul script.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's always different language for these things, similar things.
Yeah, I just used the language that was on the card.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That. The more you step into that, you'll notice that the more confidence you have, the more.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is as we speak that truth.
Clarity. That's the other word. Sorry. Clarity is the other word. Confidence and clarity.
Yeah. Well, and that's it, right? Because as we speak that truth out, it has to flow through us, right? And in that moment, it is clear. It either resonates or it doesn't, right? And when it doesn't, we feel off and we feel like, okay, wait a minute, that's not exactly it. But when it really resonates on that deep level and it brings us light, that makes all the difference in the world.
100%. Absolutely. So what does it feel like to you when something resonates? I'm putting this out to the audience. You and I can talk about it while we wait. But what does it feel like for you guys when something resonates with you? What does that mean to you? Because I think people have different cues, right? For when things resonate. So for me, I get like tingles, often like in my head or neck, sometimes even full back shivers if something really resonates. If it's something that's fairly neutral, I just feel very comfortable in my body. If it's something that it does not resonate, there's usually like a tightening in my stomach. That's kind of what I experience. Yeah. Okay, yeah. More angel numbers and stuff will appear as confirmation. So even though there are days I'm like, why? I know I'm still on the right path. Yeah. They send us those signs, right? To confirm that we're on the right path. I've had a lot. One day, it was just a few days ago too, and I think I saw 111, 222, 320, or 333, and 555. I just happened to look at the clock, and I wasn't just sitting around doing nothing, guys. Just so you know, it just happened that those were the times that I was seeing. It was amazing. Yeah. Carla says shivers. Yeah. Yeah. Full body sweeping chills when something resonates.
Yeah, I'll often be like, goosebumps.
Goosebumps. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I do get that too, for sure.
Yeah. But then there's also The tingle for sure is a beautiful example of something really resonating on a cellular level, right? Because the body's going, yay!
Yes, that's what it's saying. Yes, that. The cells get all excited and they jump around. Yeah.
I also find that there's a lightness to it, right? If something really resonates or it feels correct, it's like, yes, now I have tingles.
Yes.
Right?
It's like that joy, that innate joy that comes up, sort of bubbles up sometimes, right? And when that's the case.
Yeah, there is that joy. There is, I find, that deep sigh, that exhale that just releases so much tension and weight that gets carried. When something really resonates on that deep level, it's like, I release everything else. That's so it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Thank you for joining us. I think you've been on with us before. So resonation. And that resonation, I mean, that whole word is about matching a vibrational frequency of. Which brings us to the abundance thing, because that's how we manifest abundance. So it is kind of a roundabout way of getting to our topic today, but it is part of that.
Yeah.
Right?
I think everything always goes as it's meant to.
It is. It does, indeed. Yeah.
Well, and that's it, right? So when we talk about, what resonates for us, again, like looking at, the shadow idea here, that victimhood or victimization, there's no resonance in that.
It's very heavy.
It's very heavy. It doesn't feel correct. And I know, we can get those kind of deep knowings of no, like that's not good for me. And there is a resonance in that because we know that that's, an intuitive hit saying, no, but it's different, right? It's a very different thing than going, oh, this thing resonates, right? It's a, and so I think that it's important to recognize, like, if we're looking at something and we're getting that heaviness or that deep no, or we're feeling like something is really wrong, instead of going, why does this keep happening to me? Really look at it and go, okay, where do I need to go? What do I need to look for? What do I need to tap into in order to hit something that resonates? Right? It's about being open and curious as opposed to being tunnel visioned into, this one issue.
So Kaylee was told, I was told that channeling is just a form of resonance. So using our voice is speaking, saying, acknowledging that specific resonance. I'm not sure I fully agree with that statement, that channeling is just a form of resonance.
I think it would depend on how we're defining resonance. So again, notice, how we're using it as opposed to other ways that the word can be used.
Right. Yeah. Because I think you have to be in resonance with whatever being you're channeling. Although that's why I say I don't think it's just a form of channeling, a form of resonance. I think there's a lot more to it, and there's more stuff involved in channeling than just being in resonance with the being, right? So I think that's what's sort of caught me up with that.
Well, resonance, I mean, when we look at okay, let's just get technical for a minute and geek out for a sec. So the word resonance itself is about the quality of a sound, right? That it has, we often say something has like a deep resonance, right? And what we're talking about is, I don't know, what I'm thinking of is the, what's his name, guy who sings the Budapest song. Like, he's got that very deep kind of voice, right? There's this deep resonance in it. Or like drumming music might have a deep resonance to it. That has nothing to do with whether or not we resonate with that. Right?
So Encyclopedia Britannica says resonance is a relatively large selective response of an object or a system that vibrates in step or phase with an extremely externally applied oscillatory force.
Okay. So basically, if this sound causes a reaction, that this then also takes on that same vibrational energy, that's a resonance.
Right.
Right.
And that's what happens. I think that's what she's referring to here. So especially with the crystals and other things. So when I talk about our resonance, getting into resonance with something, right? There's that physics law that if something is low vibration and something high vibration is introduced, that this one will raise so that they resonate. The lower one will raise to resonate. So I think that might be what she's meaning, especially when it comes to like the crystals and stuff, because crystals and essential oils vibrate at a higher frequency. So when they're in your field, it helps to raise your vibration to meet that, to create a resonance.
That term of resonance could make sense when we're talking about, tapping into channeling and things like that, because we're raising to resonate with that message so that it can come through us.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So she says, yeah, more or less what I was trying to say. Okay.
Well, the thing is, again,
we're also going through text, guys. Like text is, things get lost in translation.
This is such a beautiful example, right, of victimization versus freedom. Okay. And I'm just going to keep on coming back because that's the energy that we're in right now.
Yes.
Right. Like we could easily have gotten into a debate, an argument, or whatever about our different semantic, ways of saying this. Right. And be like, oh, nobody listens to me. Oh, you don't hear me. I'm not, I can't express myself clearly, blah, 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 blah. Like the typical kind of, things that we can get into narrative wise. Or we can look at what's possible here. Right. And really step into that freedom of abundance. Like, sure, let's see how this works for all of us. How can we come to resonate how we feel about this together?
That word again. Okay. Yeah. So she was taking it more in the musical minded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's all very similar. It really, when you bring them all down, sort of all of the different types of resonance we've talked about there, if you bring them all down, it's to the simplest form. They're the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and even thinking about, like the sand experiments or the water with Emoto and all that, like, we can see the resonance of something in how it shows up in patterns.
Yeah.
Right. And it's such a cool thing to see how those things connect. And so when you think about that, and we talk about like chills and shivers and, all of that, it's literally our cells changing to resonate with something, to show in some way this connection. And that is such an awesome, cool thing to think about.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. And Kaylee was saying it was in terms of being crystalline or being made of crystal that channeling was easier being made of crystal versus human. Oh, I see. Yeah. Because crystals are very programmable, right? And that's kind of like what Jen was just talking about with the Emoto study. So the Emoto study is water, a water study, for those of you that aren't familiar. It was Masaru Emoto who did this water study, and he studied the effect of different frequencies or different things around water and how it programmed the water itself. And so the high vibration frequencies programmed the water into a beautiful crystalline resonance structure. And that's kind of what she was referring to. And so crystals do the same as the water. They get very programmed. They get easy to program to have a certain frequency, even just with your intention. Mm-hmm. So, 5:55. Thank you. So yes, I think that's, it's apropos in terms of that. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and when we talk about like crystals and crystalline, right? Like everything is a part of that. So we're on the crystalline grid. We're connected to all of that. So everything has this ability for this programming.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, and we're crystalline beings. Like we have crystal within us, within our DNA structures. And I posted something last week, a YouTube video from Alexander Quinn about why we're so tired. And within that, he was talking about all of the changes that are happening to our DNA structure and some of the crystalline parts of us as we go through this kind of ascension process. And so it was quite fascinating when we look at that stuff and
Well,
the
I
resonance
remember
within.
reading articles, like, God, maybe not quite 20 years ago, but like early 2000s, where they talked about, they were looking into this like idea of crystals within our biology.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, had somebody say, oh yeah, there's, our cells are crystalline. And I went, cool. And then of course the geek in me just deep dive into,
Yes.
all of that and recognizing that like, this is something that, throughout time and history, like we have, ancient texts that talk about this. And then science goes, of course, no. And then science comes back and goes, oh, well, actually, wait a minute.
Well,
Maybe
maybe.
there's something to this.
Maybe we should look at this closer. Let's study this.
Right?
Yeah.
But, looking at, the ancient kind of teachings around it, and then the new things that science are actually exploring with it, and, noticing how, morphogenesis, the change that happens within our cellular structure, right? And the fact that, it's liquid crystal that's changing and adapting and all of that. So it's just such a cool thing.
It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. But again, thinking about that and thinking about the programmability of that, right? We talk about mind, body, spirit connection, and we talk about the ability to, work with ourselves, to be able to work with the body, to be able to, encapsulate what we want in our experience. And it's like, wow, that there's so much more to that and to our capacity to tap into that. When we recognize that, on every single cell in our body is connected to our spiritual self. It's not just like, oh, here's my soul, here's my body, let's see where we can shove that on in there. Like we're actually in every single cell.
Fully integrated is what we are.
We're fully integrated beings.
Fully integrated within and without, because we're multidimensional. So we have all these other dimensionals of us too.
Exactly.
So like Carla says, we're just uncovering more of our blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Kaylee has a loving reminder about
the
cards.
Are we at time already?
Yeah. Pretty much. We started a couple of minutes late.
I love it, but
it's visual. Just stuff her in there.
I know, right? Oh, golly.
Stuff that soul in there. Just stuff it in.
Really, like there's been so much debate in the world about like where actually is this thing we call a soul, right? And where does it go? Like, is it in here? Is it in here? Is it in our gut? Is it where, like, and all this kind of stuff? It's like it's everywhere. It's all of it. So again, those tingles, right? Like when we talk about it, and everybody talked about it, full body tingles.
That's your soul reacting.
Right? I mean, how awesome. Sorry.
I saw a really cool video this week too about, it was actually a video of the soul leaving a body. Someone actually caught it on video. And it's just this wisp of energy that comes out. And they actually, I don't know whether you guys know this, but here's my geek out moment. The soul actually weighs 3/4 of an ounce. They've done studies before and after death, and consistently it's like 1/2 to 3/4 of an ounce of energy. That's how much that energy weighs. So it's very cool. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's super cool.
And we just stuff it in the meat suit. Just stuff it in the meat suit.
We're in there.
Put it in.
So, in line with using my voice,
Mm-hmm.
we have express your love.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay, now again,
Since it's February, love
this
month.
is coming from the Seeds of the Sacred Feminine deck. And it's express your love.
Jen, I love you.
I love you.
All of you in the audience, I love you too.
And you know what? It's such an incredible thing too, right? Because we talk about this vibrational energy, and just expressing love, it skyrockets
It
our
does.
vibration, right?
Hopefully more care packing it in there than I do for a trip. Had to share. So laughter, expressing love, and expressing gratitude are right up there for bringing your vibration high. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lots of love to you.
All right, so here we go. I'll read you guys the card. All right. You have too much love hidden away in your heart, grandchild. You must let it out. You were born into this earth walk to love, and all the sacred laws conspire to help you. Do not hold on to the idea that you are alone in this world. You are not. You are a child of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, whose ecstatic coupling gave birth to you and all your relations. Sorry, full body tingles, man.
I think she resonates, guys. Just saying.
Rejoice in your sacred lineage and know you are cherished. Can you feel that love? It lives in your heart. When you express who you are, all of creation hears your heart song and sings it back to you. What is the way of the circle? That is the way of the circle of life. Your heart song awakens others to their song, but you must remember to sing it. You have much love to give. Let it flow and watch how love flows back to you. You will transform the very earth you walk on.
Beautiful. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Kaylee sending hearts to you. She would be. Yeah.
I'll have to make that a side gig.
She says, please. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, we say you can't make this stuff up, and you really can't.
Mm-mm.
All of it comes back down to the same thing. We need to express our love. We are here with a soul script that we are meant to express, that we are meant to voice, and we're meant to do that through our truth, right? And to truly express our love, we have to come home to who we are. We have to move out of that place of victimization, and all of that is going to bring us enormous amounts of freedom, right? It is all so connected. So I'm just...
Beautiful. Beautiful. Like waves on water.
Mm-hmm.
We can use our voice to express love.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And any other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Any other way of expressing love. Symbolism, hearts. Look at all the hearts going on here. We got tons of hearts. That's all symbols of love. Symbols hold a specific energy frequency within the collective. So when they're used, we automatically tie into that frequency, which is a beautiful thing. So what have you got going on in the coming weeks?
Well, actually, I think, let me just double check. I think next week I am on with Gerald before this show.
Nice.
I'm just going to double check it though, because me and schedules, I just kind of go, yeah, wherever I'm supposed to be, that's where I'll show up.
Yep, that's kind of what I do too.
Yeah, so next week at 2 Eastern, I'm going to be on with Gerald, and I think we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A for the centers that we did, but we're going to talk about authorities, right? And how we can...
and we don't mean the police, guys.
No, we're talking about human design. We have a whole series of Laugh and Learn with human design. And so we're going to talk about, what the human design authorities are and how we can honor them in our experience and use them for decision making, to really stay in alignment with our energetic blueprint and why we're here.
Yay. Awesome. Some more fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I both have a podcast to do this week.
Oh, yes.
It won't be out this week. It'll be out the following one. We do a podcast with, what's it called? Conversations with Therapists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's with a group from the UK.
Yeah.
So Jen and I get on with
cool.
another group, and we all have a conversation much like this. Only there's usually at least 4, usually 6 or 8 of us, depending on the day, whoever can make it. So that's coming up, and it's called New Beginnings this time. So that it's not live, so you'll have that within a couple of weeks. We're filming it this week.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we got? Open mic with Ramsey is this Friday, so I'm doing that with Ramsey. That'll be fun. And then what else am I doing? I am teaching Reiki 3 on Sunday. So that'll be fun. And what else have we got? We got this next week, so don't miss that. And yeah, there's just lots of stuff going on. Jen and I are doing some work behind the scenes in the next couple of weeks to kind of make some things, spruce them up a little, get things moving.
Yeah, for the member site.
For the member
and
site.
for everybody too, but it'll just
Yeah.
get better and better in the member site too. So
Yeah, we're working towards all that. And so we're excited about some of this. And it's all about community. Seeing Frozen Friday.
Is there a new Frozen, or is it the old one?
Or maybe Frozen Friday is the name of the something else. I don't know.
I have no idea. I just assumed that you meant on Friday, but I could be totally
that could be
wrong.
That could be. I think there is a new Frozen out, so that could be. It's okay because you can always watch the replay because these are always on there.
Yeah.
So, I know what else is coming up. Not this coming Monday, but the one after, I believe. Yes, not the 26th, but the first Monday of the month is Enlightenment Evening. So that's in person for those of you that are around. Cool. Frozen the musical based off the movie.
Awesome.
Ooh, that'll be fun. Nice.
Very cool.
So that's what we have for you guys. Yeah. And it's going to be a fun time. We're working through all sorts of stuff and working to bring things better to you. And please feel free to give us suggestions about what you'd like to see, whether it's on here, whether it's classes, whether it's stuff on the membership site. Like, just be open. We're open to suggestion and ideas. And you can always reach us at the Twillow Lifestyle info at twillowlifestyle.com. You can reach it at Tanis twillowlifestyle.com, and Jen at My Holistic Self.
Yeah, Jennifer at myholisticself.com.
And of course, we've got all our handles down here, so take a look at those. And so it's been an awesome week. We wish you all tons of love, and we look forward to having you back again next week. Take care, everyone. Sending love.